Hey everyone, welcome to a special bonus episode of Gripe, the show that's normally for short, sweet reviews of new release movies, plus the one thing that annoyed me the most. But today I'm going to be doing a spoilerful Easter egg hunt for the film Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. And obviously there are going to be major spoilers. If you're looking just for a surface level, spoiler-free review, check out my first video. This is more my Star Wars nerdy review, which is going to look at some of the awesome things that Rogue One gave us. First and foremost, I have to give Edwards and crew credit for having the balls to end this movie the way that they did. Even I didn't think that they would have the guts to kill off every character, but they did. And that's important in a movie like this because it creates real stakes. You don't know if the characters that you're following are going to survive. And that's something that has been severely lacking in Star Wars over the years. Obviously, we had it in Episode 7 where a major character died, but before that, we didn't get it very often, so there really didn't feel like the stakes were real. But here, we did get that. And especially when K2SO died in badass fashion, by the way, by mowing down stormtroopers one by one, you knew it was going to get dark. And one by one, they all started to die. Even if there was some slight hope, at least one would survive in the end. In the first half of the film, one of the central planets is Jedha, which is a place that's actually rich in Star Wars lore. Jedha is basically the central planet of the Jedi religion. And one of the things that Jedha has is the Kyber Crystals, which actually Jyn Erso has on her necklace, which her father gave her. These Kyber Crystals are found on Jedha, and they're considered sacred. These are actually used to power the lightsabers, first and foremost, but they also power some other things, apparently. We also see remnants of Jedi statues, and one of them looks very similar to Obi-Wan, plus the pillaging of the old Jedi Temple by the Empire to get these Kyber Crystals. The Death Star gets its first real test here, which is led by Krennic and Tarkin. Up to this point, we've really only seen it destroy planets or ships completely. We see this powerful blast that just pops things out of existence. But here we actually get a less powerful blast, and that actually gives us an idea of the ground level effects of the weapon. And unfortunately, we also find out that the weapon is powered by Kyber Crystals, which is this sad irony for the Jedi, who use those as these weapons of peace. Now it's being used to power the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. We also get a better look at the structure of the Rebel Alliance. Up to this point, we just believe the Rebel Alliance was one big unit against the Empire. But they are not one cohesive front. There is dissent among their leaders, and there's even factions. Saw Gerrera is considered a fanatic, and that suggests that there are both diplomatic rebels and violent ones. So you get ones like Bail Organa versus somebody like Saw Gerrera, who uses more guerrilla tactics to get his message across. We also get some non-Jedi Sith Force talk as well, especially in relation to Jedha and the Kyber Crystals. Chirrut Imwe is sort of this priest of the Force. He's a guardian of the temple. He has a religious devotion to it, and he also uses it as his mantra. Now, if we can ignore all that midichlorian BS, we can see that the Force is something more universal. It's not something that people just have, something that they're just born with. It's not just a Jedi tool. It actually is this larger, more universal force. We also see a lot of familiar faces, and some are creepier than others. Grand Moff Tarkin makes an appearance, and while they did a mostly good job with the CG here of creating his face, it doesn't always work. The uncanny valley is very obvious here. But the voice was spot on, and that definitely helped to create just this menacing figure. We also see Mon Mothma return, whose most prominent previous appearance was in Episode 6 when they're setting up the attack on Endor. Gold and Red leaders both show up, and both of them appear in the Battle of Yavin, and both of them die in the Battle of Yavin. But here they both show up to help the fight at Scarif. And as I said before, Bail Organa shows up as well as Leia. And the cameo by Senator Organa is interesting because it's right before he returns to Alderaan, and so we know that him going back to Alderaan is not going to end well. And then we see Princess Leia getting the Death Star plans aboard the Tantive 4 blockade runner. So a lot of good familiar faces that sets up Episode 4 perfectly. Darth Vader makes a couple of brief appearances in the film as well, but one of them is memorable. We see his palace on Mustafar, which is where he lost his limbs in the fight with Obi-Wan, which is pretty awesome looking place. His palace is pretty dark and awesome. It is exactly the place you would expect a Sith Lord to live. And he also has this crazy badass fight scene when the rebels are trying to get the plans to the Tantive 4. And this is the Darth Vader we've always wanted to see, the one who's just using the Force at will, choking people, throwing them all around. It just shows that he really is a force to be reckoned with, and it's something that we really have not seen in the live action films. There's a number of other Easter eggs scattered throughout, and I couldn't possibly name all of them after one viewing. I did see the movie at 1 a.m. You got the droids that make an appearance, as they always have to, R2-D2 and C-3PO. There's definitely throwback lines that we have all heard many times before, like "it's a trap" and "I've got a bad feeling about this." It wouldn't be a Star Wars movie without "I've got a bad feeling about this," unfortunately. Yes, that is my key gripe. Cornelius Evazan and Ponda Baba also show up, and those are the two wanted men from Chalmun's Cantina on Tatooine. So they show up on Jeddah right before it explodes. During the fight scene at Scarif, a Star Destroyer crashes into the shield generator, which is reminiscent of the Executor crash in Episode 6. And then probably my favorite Easter egg in the entire movie was during the Battle of Scarif, Red 5 gets blown up, which creates this opening for a new Red 5, which is Luke Skywalker. Now, there were some major differences between the trailers for Rogue One and the final cut, and we may never see the original cut, which would have probably been done before the reshoots happen. And despite some key missing items like the famous "I rebel" line, the film we got in no way disappoints. Overall, Rogue One is jam-packed with Easter eggs for Star Wars fans, and I look forward to watching it again to see even more that I missed. Fortunately, not all of them are just callbacks to things you know and love. It adds to the universe as a whole, but it also helps that this is a fun and thrilling movie as well. Let me know some of the Easter eggs I missed, and let me know some of your favorites from the film. And if you want to watch my basic, spoiler-free review, just check out my first video. And that does it for this episode of Key Gripe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Nice work. Good job. If you like what you saw, you can just go ahead and click that subscribe button for all videos past and future. You can also head over to my website and see all the other stuff that I do, including the books I've written. So go ahead, click stuff.